Here we go then, game number 2 well underway as we get ourselves into the series to see can Bliss close it out in a very convincing 2-0 fashion, or are there still more tricks up the sleeves here for a Mammoth? They came out with a double AD carry comp, they gave us a taste of a Morgana for the first time in 2 years, Tally. And it does beg the question, right, do we continue to go down this journey? Because I feel like if we go back to like a Corki Azir handshake, everyone's like, oh, this is boring. That's not why I tuned into the LCO.
Okay, so first of all, we see the Rumble being banned. I think this is a very, very nice adaptation from them. It just gives, these top teams who like to play as AD mid laners and, pair with AD jungle just too much versatility. And I think that you should be punished if you want to do these early game mid AD junglers if you're a top laner who can't blind pick these, really strong AP top laners. And we see Bio still does favor the Mordekaiser, so he will pick that one later down the draft if he does get a good matchup. But it's not something you can early pick in the draft like the Rumble.
Let's see then, with that one being denied away. What is their first pick priority instead? And certainly a default for Harry earlier in the week was, let me just have Corki back-to-back games and I just get to cruise on through. So not really too surprising to see him lock that one in with the phosphorus bomb changes here on, 14-12. A little bit more aggressive, a little bit more safety from far. But the response to Mammoth, maybe they look to try and double down again with the center being denied for the second time in a row. Unable to, go for that fasting center build that they may be used to. So Leona Aphelios, incredibly aggressive lane.
Yeah, and I think that the Aphelios is quite susceptible, especially to Aladoric's pull. He's not that mobile champion like we saw from him in the last game. It's not that Zeri. So even though the one is left up, decided to change his mind, wants to play a bit more of a lane dominant champion because he feels like he was quite comfortable last game paired with Leona. But, with the Ezreal and the Braum being locked in here, I think Braum is a really good answer to these engage supports like Leona. Pair that with a double AD carry, and you are so comfortable this game.
Yeah, we saw already how strong it can be with the concussive blows passive being, utilized very, very efficiently. You go in and already you're overextended, but then for sure you are no longer escaping. I suppose it's also worth noting still that the Corki and Ezreal is a flex. We have seen it played in both mid as well as bot. This split from different teams and different players. This would be interesting if they went for the Zyra for extra tempo, but they actually go for the Nidalee.
Yeah, I think both are, quite similar, but, pairing the Nidalee with the Aphelios means you have that steroid 4-gun grab, so he does have a bit more carry potential. Zyra, a lot more about, clear speed. Don't move around the map as fast as Nidalee, but you do kill your camps faster. You do, you can do those camps over the wall. You have a lot more presence in the team fight, but there isn't much dive coming out of the, Bliss roster, so Good doesn't feel too comfortable, but, picking the Zyra in that position.
And there's the Carvers that we mentioned could certainly be a possibility for them. They themselves actually deny it away as the Kaiser then gets banned too, so potentially preventing Predator from taking back into that and finding some AP, or more so like the hybrid build of Kaiser coming out in the mid lane. We get to see what the next follow-up would be, whether or not they feel that they need to really narrow down that jungle pool even further, and they do. So another AP jungler in the brand.
Yeah, and with the majority of the AD carries being banned or picked right now, if the Varus is taken away here, I'm not sure what Predator can really, pick in the mid lane unless he does want to go for the Yone himself. I think preferably Predator wants to play one of the AD carries in the mid lane. He wants to have this Nidalee be a solo AP champion because we all know, like, Nidalee, when the enemy starts building magic, is quite a useless champion, especially with how inconsistent her damage is. So when it does land, it needs to stick. So gonna have to see what they do want to prioritize in that mid lane.
It can be very, very rough, right, when those spears are just there to tickle people and you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm just here to give people heals now because that's insanely broken if you have all your points teched into it. Smolder gonna get locked in here. Okay. We've asked the question, would we ever get to see it back in the mid lane like it did on its debut? And maybe, just maybe, we'll get treated to it tonight.
Yeah, but the problem with Smolder in mid is you don't get access to that ability to get those stacks as fast as you do on the bowling. You're only hitting the minions. There isn't going to be much trading, especially into the Corki. It's going to be, a lot of a range abuse in that matchup. So while he does get a lot more base levels, and that is always good for the AD carries, going to be a bit longer for him to hit those stack breakpoints and really take over the game. But once again, they left the Vi open. If this is something that they do want to pick in the jungle, forego that, full AD comp with a solo AP threat, that is something they can do. But with, so many AP threats being left up, have to see what Kevy does want to take.
I do like the fact that we're paying respect to Kevy's unique champion for, right, the hovering there of the Diana as well as the Evelyn. Certainly two of his very most comfortable champions. The Diana being such a long time since we've seen it from him, but in the past they've been very comfortable in rosters to lock it in with the Yasuo and go for a full wombo combo setup with the Blind Jacks coming out. Nice stable champion for Bio to lock on in. There's the Aatrox, as we kind of expected. If the Renekton's been denied this certainly has been his next best answer if you want to make sure that you've got a solo AP option.
Yeah, and this is quite a hard matchup for Gudo. You know, he doesn't really have that clear speed advantage on the Dino. Dino is so fast at clearing the jungle, and, you know, doesn't win that 1v1. Dino is such a good duelist, can't really jump into the enemy TV either because, you know, Ezreal, Corki, and Jax all so mobile, so hard to lock down with your damage. And, you know, pair that with the Braum. If you do go in, you will get tagged up, and you are not getting out of this, you know, these skirmishes, especially with how much damage comes out of the team comp from Bliss. So I definitely favor the Bliss comp over the Mammoth comp, but I can't wait to see, you know, which AD carry does go towards the mid lane and what it will look like.
Yeah, incredibly dive-heavy composition, right? So really what I'm getting from this is that Bliss, they've, you know, found a crack in the armor. They look to try and exploit it and really make sure that Mammoth are going to get exposed on this occasion, where you try to draft another champion that wants to try and hit that late game point, a real battle between a Smolder as well as a Corki. But who will come out in the end? As it stands, I'd be very surprised if this were to be the case, and mid Aphelios would be very, very spicy.
Yeah, I think this is just, you know, okay, when we think of both these players, Predath and Gunkrab. Gunkrab, the Smolder guy, and Predath, we always know about him on PGG in his time, how successful he was with that Aphelios Jinx meta. This makes a lot more sense to me, putting the Aphelios in the mid lane, even though kind of weird you would think that like that, but I think that Aphelios is a good laner in his by himself. Remember when the champion was released, he was a very strong top laner. He's very good at bullying laners, and you know, using his range advantage, using the right guns can be very hard to deal with in that, you know, 1v1 matchup.
Certainly can be, as you can see here from the observers. Just quickly getting Tally's opinion. Skin check, are we happy?
No. No.
I'm so ready for that. You're like, they know it, you know it. It's a sad time. It really is a sad time. But I'll tell you what, what's interesting about this is the fact that we are going back to a full AD carry meta. I might have to hold that for a second is, oh my god, how that did not connect. He's baited it out in that time. You can see Gudo cracking up in the camera. But for a time when the LCO was, you know, first, you know, introduced, it was really the battle between the likes of Violet and Predath. Raze was overseas in North America. Lemus had yet joined the league. And these two had so many battles over the years between PGG and Peace. So it's cool to see them both on, you would say, unique and signature champions, just in different different lanes now.
Yeah, nice to know the history between these players is, you know, such a long-standing thing, and they are like playing what you would consider their, you know, some of their premier champions. A lot of, like, I think that Ezreal's been out of the meta for so long that a lot of people don't know. A lot of the older AD carries and like Violet, Raze, Predath, like they all are like very proficient Ezreal, Aphelios, like Misfortune, Jinx players. And, you know, with the buffs coming out on 14-13, which we will get to see going into playoffs, I can't wait to see, you know, more Xayah, more Misfortune. I think that Misfortune especially is a champion who should pair so well with the likes of Leona, Nautilus, Rel, and, you know, seeing maybe even the curse of the, you know, the sad bullet time again will be something we see next patch.
It certainly will be, and we've had many variations of that Misfortune, right? It was like the full, you know, Make It Rain Bulletstorm party power with the Arcane Comet, or just that straight nuke with the Lethality Armor Pen. So, certainly some considerations. We joke about it with Raze. When's the Xayah going to come out? But it may just have to wait for those playoffs. She mentioned as well for the Smolder, not a big fan of it in the mid lane. Maybe a bit of a consideration as to why it has gone with the protection of that Leona. More stacks, but an easier time then to navigate those early levels.
Yeah, I just think it is, like, in bot lane, it's still a weak champ in the early game, but you can still navigate that because you are playing a duo lane, so you do have some strength from your support. But in the mid lane, it's kind of like a Kassadin. You are just conceding your early game altogether. You offer absolutely nothing in terms of damage or wave control, especially against something like the Corki, who's just going to match you in scaling while maintaining that priority and still have more damage than you throughout the game.
I'm quite curious then to see what Predath can get accomplished with this Aphelios. It's been such a long time since we've seen it in the lane elsewhere from the bot lane, but in combination with that, it's the fact that Harry is so incredibly comfortable on the Corki. Almost a case of, look, Predath, if you played it last game, let me show you how it's done. As we look towards top lane now, and Bio with this blind Jack says, Reneka, you can have the Aatrox, but you're not level 6 yet, and your sustain has been hampered.
Yeah, Bio's cooldowns are back up, and once again we see Reneka on a low amount of health. Both junglers piling to top lane, so this should just be, you know, Kevi meeting Gudo, whether that's going to be at the golems or in the river. And a fight will always favor Kevi. You know, he does have the Conqueror versus the, you know, more income keystone coming out of Gudo, so he does have the combat power thanks to, you know, how strong Dana is in these duels. And if, you know, Gudo decides to leave and not cover his top laner right now, it will be lights out for Reneka.
Yeah, Reneka's in a lot of trouble right now. Kevi patiently waiting. Gudo still playing towards the chickens on his side of the map. Bio waiting to try and crash in this next wave. And I think, yep, disaster is on the horizon. Ooh. 2 ganks being teased at, one in the mid lane and one in the top lane. Who looks to try and hit the trigger first? As Gudo does not connect the spear. The bindings seem to be good enough, but the trade from Reneko at least answers back.
Yeah, that is a godsend for Mammoth there, that Reneko was able to trade that kill. Surprised that Bio was the one who did tank that dive initially. I think that Kevy is, he throws down his burst. He doesn't need to stay in for that damage. Should just be the one to tank and get out there very easily. But Panther does fall down. They do get the 1-for-1, so it's a bit of a save for Gudo there. If he is able to steal these chickens away with that smite, did blow Harry's flash in the mid lane, so the early game is very comfortable for Mammoth right now.
That it certainly is, and it's a case of what can get done with this newfound tempo, because bot lane for Mammoth would be their one sore spot right now. They're just looking to really bide their time and pick up whatever they can get. Very difficult for Voice to jump in, punished and countered really by the Braum, and very difficult then for the Harass to answer back as the Smolder, because Ezreal, such a nuisance.
Yeah, so we see Bio initially going in for the dive and just unfortunately shorts his flash into the wall, doesn't get out of the Infernal Chains, and that means he falls down as well. So that misplay by him means Reneko much more comfortable in this lane. He would have been pretty much lights out for him continuing, as we know this matchup very much scales into the Jax's favor, but with a stacking wave, with everyone coming down the bot lane, this might be a dive happening, but Gudo is on, the right position of the map, and he can really, do such a good job to counter this, and this is just very nice by Mammoth. I think we're seeing a lot more teamwork that we were talking about we wanted to see from the first game.
Yeah, the communication, the understanding, the read as to what Team Bliss's next play would be is certainly working in their favor, and you can see that Predator not keen to, get drawn into that occasion of, going down to the bot lane. He's much more interested in farming, getting a free time to chip away and hunt at some of this turret plate gold. But to have that tracking and to have Gudo in the right place at the right time, certainly going to distract Bliss from finding their classic early game strongholds. As we check in with top lane one more time, and really is going to be a battle of who can hit their cooldowns and who can get that lockdown, because they're just go, 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 regardless if they have mana or not.
Yeah, this is just a classic Jax matchup, always jumping on the enemy, abusing your low cooldowns, trying to make this as volatile as possible. We do have Predator coming top with the worst gun combo possible, so I'm not sure this is going to result in a kill because he doesn't really do anything. I'm not sure why I'm seeing both AD carry mid lane as roam. I don't really think they do anything in the early game besides, do damage. Would much rather see them both sit in their lane and scale up to become strong, but these skirmishes could be quite valuable for both teams.
Let's see then what they can find with it, because the combo does find himself a two-man route.
Red-white.
Vigil, red and white now, so suddenly you're an absolute powerhouse in these team fights. Gudo takes the 1v1 into Kevy, gets taken away in the end, unable to find the killing blow, and Harry, topped up and healthy, quite happy about this one, saying, well, you've gone for the dive, you've gone for the kill, you're just not going to find it. Looks at Predator for a second.
Harry?
As soon as Voice initiates, though, the shield goes up, unbreakable and unkillable is Harry, who's running for his life, but a flash in his head. It's a trade that Predator was willing to make. And Bliss, with all this control, much in part to the Braum, allowing them to hit these stuns, has allowed them to run members down and ultimately get the team fight win.
Ooh, we'll have to see. Yeah, so he does not decide to go for that exit kill onto Aladoric. Does have the damage there, but respecting Kevy, will be able to find the trade onto him pretty easily. These skirmishes are not so bad, especially for the Mammoth side. They want to be able to find anything in the early game, because we know that when they get to the mid game, these team fights are going to be so hard, especially with how easy it is for, Kevy, if he does get the Zhonya's on his second item, to just go in, create so much space for his carry to do damage. And I think that creating volatility in the early game will favor Mammoth, because we all know how scary an affiliates can be, with the correct gun in these certain team fights.
Absolutely, yeah, certainly with the right weapon set up, with the right items behind you, you can do so much damage. It is pretty much criminal by that point. Not to mention a Smolder that could get amongst it as well. Predator blocked inside there with the grubs. Where did you go? Where do you go? You have no flash. You are completely stuck in place. And Bio, with the last breath of damage, managed to survive and force the other members back.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm watching, Simi. There seems to be a lot of disconnection coming from the Mammoth side. They just left their main carry in the pit when he had access to the red-white guns. It felt like they were very confident to take that fight, but the moment the members from Bliss showed up, they all just jumped over the wall, and unfortunately, Predator can't do that, and he's just left in the pit to die. Yeah,
pretty rough for all the credit and kudos we've given them before about, being locked in and having the same ideas. That one looked very much disjointed, and I'm curious as to how this bot lane's going to play on outright, because we talk about Smolder being the late game beast, but an Ezreal champion, like a Corki, right, wants to get that tier as quickly as possible, wants to spike before these crit chance champions can come into effect. Well, right now the early game most certainly is theirs. Yeah, and they just, completely left him in the pit by himself against, the entire enemy team. It's just an easy pickup for them. Mammoth did have the resources to fight this. They both are missing ultis on, multiple team members, but I think that definitely favors, champs like Nidalee, who just don't really rely on the cooldown of the ultimate, because
They don't need it to do damage. They just need to land a spear, and suddenly, you know, we can really blow up members with paired with Leona, paired with the gun combo coming out of Praetor. Then that was probably a time for them to fight.
Let's see if they get given another opportunity, a golden opportunity like that again to try and contest, because that mistake has cost them quite dearly here at 9 minutes into the game, already behind by 2,000 gold with the 2 kills they found so far. And you certainly need to find a way back into this one bit. The first item spike, or if they can hang on for dear life, potentially 2. But this is a case once more for Kevy to say, I can really do as I please. And we'll just start up the first dragon.
Yeah, the one saving grace this game, Skimmy, for Mammoth, even though they are falling behind right now, is their lanes are doing much better individually. We see Reneko doing much better in his individual 1v1, you know, creating a bit of a CS lead for himself, much more comfortable thanks to the, you know, trade in the early game. Mid lane isn't so one-sided either, you know, we aren't seeing Harry on the own just scaling up and being ready to take over the game. And, you know, the one pain point for them right now is that bot lane, which is coming out purely from the 2v2, you know, and the matchup. This is the main pain point for Mammoth, and they're going to have to be able to navigate this if they want to be able to hit the mid game.
Oh, they're about to go in for the all-in here as the Unbreakable goes up, the Glacial Fissure goes in. Voice says, yeah, we can fight this. I don't think you can, quite honestly. Out comes Mummy, and is she there to act as the babysitter or there to tuck you in sweet dreams good night? Because it seems as if, even with Gudo showing up, there's 2v2 of Valadoric can just take you all on. And, well, they can keep them interested enough that Harry just flashes across the wall and says, I'll get that kill, we'll finish the job. Now a double buff on Corki and a turret that ceases to exist.
Yeah, Guncraft tries to flash forward to find the execute onto Violet with that last bit of damage he needed from his Q just out of range, so he just, you know, blows a flash and dies. Harry roaming on the Corki, you know, so strange, but finding so much success. He's a lot of volatility in these side lanes that he's moving to impact, and you know, even though we do see Praetor picking up 2 plates in the mid lane, it doesn't really matter because Harry is getting gold anyway.
He certainly is. Valkyrieing aggressively time and time again. They look towards Praetor. Where do you go? There is no escape. And unfortunately, you now take a quick stop check of the scoreboard and say, everywhere is dying and Bliss are incredibly fed.
Yeah, and you know, as we were seeing the praises from Reneko this game, he does fall down to Bipanther, and I believe a gank from Kevy that could have been a solo kill because we did not see the top side of the map, but anyway, Biopanther does, you know, get the kill, and I think that is just so good for the side of Bliss. You know, they're finally creating these advantages that they need to be able to win these side lanes, and that's just going to be such a different game state.
Oh, he's gone for the flash to try and hit. Yeah, and unfortunately, Kevy says, you've run the wrong way on this occasion. Yeah, it's easy as that, really.
Jungle diff.
Yeah.
Double Triforce coming out as well, Skimmy. So, you know, the major power spikes coming out of the Corki and Ezreal are going for that same build as well. Double tier stacking Triforce. So these 80 carries, when they spike on these 2 items, are going to be so strong. Predator does have the flash this time, but Kevy knows that himself, doesn't blow the ult. Still has that one for these following team fights.
Holds on for that Moonfall, which certainly is going to find a fair bit of value with all these flashes missing. The only way to get back in would be that of Voice and Gudo to try and take down that kill, or, you know, find some creative angle to get the job done. But ultimately, they're getting pushed further and further back, much like Game 1, right, where it became so much harder to try and contest on objectives, even in the waves. And they look to try and say, can we punish this Ezreal? But such a slippery champion, it just means that he can solo soak, and Aladoric can go elsewhere to influence it further. Just
a really good use of resources from Bliss. They know that Violet very comfortable in this, you know, weak side because he can clear out most of this wave thanks to him having the Triforce so early on in the game. So if any creeps do hit the turret, it's not going to be many. So if he has to zone himself, he doesn't lose much initially. And, you know, Aladoric can roam and impact the map, and there's just no trade happening on the other side of the map because for how well Violet is able to clear these waves.
Somebody help Reneko. He needs another member here because he's just getting ganked relentlessly. And the retaliation is a little bit too slow, but they will look towards Harry. Now surrounded by 3 members. Can he take anybody down in the process? He cannot, but very, very close to getting Prey of 2.
And that's just the first tower going over to Bio. You know, Kevy's getting himself some gold as well. He already has his first item completed. Bio going to pick up his Triforce on his base as well. And this is looking very scary for Mammoth. Even though Harry does fall down in mid lane, once again, like, there is no wave push happening. There is no trade happening for Mammoth. There's no tower plates being taken. It's just not enough gold is being traded right now for this map being split.
But all I will say here, Tally, is somewhere in the world, Freak is watching and he sees triple Trinity Force. Ooh. And we're going back to the glory days, right? Those champion spotlights, tons of damage across the board. They have spiked beyond belief. And, you know, to say they're up by 5k gold almost feels like an understatement.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think Triforce is it's probably one of the strongest power spikes in the game when you complete the item. You know, the components are not bad in itself, but Triforce, you just feel quite powerful when you pick up this item, especially on champs who can use it so well, like the Jax with low cooldowns, so you can abuse the Sheen procs consistently, and the Ezreal. Corki not so much, but he is just very good with all the stats the item provides.
Let's see what I can get accomplished with it. Demolish also available here for BioPanther with the Grass Rune active, so certainly given a chance to try and be a bit of a split-pushing menace with those 5 stacks. Not the 6 this time.
Violet.
The trap is being laid though. Can we take Violet? Voice goes for the Hex Flash, maybe jumping the gun a little bit, but doesn't manage to land that Zenith Blade as he jumps in and he goes, hang on a minute, I didn't mean to do it. I am so sorry, Mr. President. Aladoric with the shield on up, cops the Solar Flare, and did it decide to go for more Glacial Fissure still to try and disengage. This spear is good, but they just soak it all up, Tally.
Easily walks that one off. You know, it was surprising that Prey decided to step out of the bush and, you know, ruin the surprise plan that Mammoth were working on so hard, but I think that just goes to show Prey does value that CS maybe a bit too much and puts himself in a position where, you know, the Bliss members don't feel scared anymore. And I think Bliss are quite comfortable taking this 2v3 because there's always the ability to outplay the Nidalee when these spears don't land.
Certainly do. They've still been going in 2v3 all game long. That Mystic Shot misses, but Kevy's here to play catch up. And there we go. It's as simple as that. Just a cheeky Crescent Strike from afar.
Bio.
They sized it up, and then Bio's like, oh, you thought you're getting away. A new challenger enters the arena. Brady, can you escape this one? You've got no flash. True Barrage connects. Can they get one? They can get 2. And Bio, look, I mean, this is almost like a gauntlet run at this stage. A horror maze. How do you escape them all?
You can't, Skimmy. There's just way too much power coming out of the Bliss side right now, and it's going to be very easy for them to just push all these waves in, steal the enemy camp, secure as much gold as possible, and you know, it's quite hard for Bliss to keep finding his trades, because even if they do find his kill onto Harry, once again, he's killed the wave, so there just is no, you know, trade that they can get besides the 300 gold from the kill.
Yeah, I can say, oh, you know, that was worth. We've put the Corki Slash and cooldown for a little bit longer, but yeah, this gold lead is just ballooning further and further, and there's no, no real signs of it slowing on down, right? No turrets, a single Void Grub was denied, but from an objective standpoint, it is very rough pickings at this stage because the Jax, very different tune compared to last game as the Zeri. It is very much all about the solo laners this time. And this Jax, 1k more fed than anybody else in the game.
Yeah, and his direct counterpart is almost 3,000 gold behind, which is such a big deal. You know, we only see the one item being completed for Neko. BioPanther is almost at his 2nd item already. There is no combination of members who can go down to this Jax lane and really, you know, kill him if BioPanther doesn't decide to fight himself to the death when they show up. He's going to be able to escape easily, punish his, you know, direct opponent in the 1v1 very, very comfortably, and once again, we keep talking about how strong these side lanes are, and I think this is the story for so much of these, you know, top teams versus the bottom teams. Is there's just a big lane dynamic when it comes to how much they fall behind and how much it impacts the side lanes later on.
It's becoming more and more evident, right, as we see more of these games take place. There's sort of the different levels and the discrepancies between what makes you a top team and what doesn't. There's sort of extra layers of, yeah, you got mechanics, but now you need to add this to your game and add this to your game. We're certainly seeing more and more of these teams where they are so heavily mismatched, where the macro becomes that much more important, and that's what allows them to balloon into a very close 10k lead before the 20-minute mark. Certainly this game feels a lot more convincing, a lot more one-sided than it did in game number 1. But yeah, another flash goes out. Instant cleanse there from Violet. Not going to be deterred by that Solar Flare. Hits by the Moonlight Vigil. Shrugs it off. Does not really mind. And if we fall triple Trinity Force was enough, now we've got 4 with Guncrab picking up 1 for himself. But it's so confusing. Do we attend to this top lane? Do we defend the split push in mid by BioPanther? The Herald goes out. They look to get another turret. That's their 4th off the game. Goodo's like, well, you know what? I'll sacrifice my team if I can just snipe away this Ezreal. And can he get that done? Because Alador's looking to protect the smite. It's denied. And it's just pure frustration.
And they can't even find the kill into Violet. The one trade they had was, you know, Goodo landing back-to-back spears onto the Ezreal. Almost found that shutdown, but just not quite enough. Just really well played by Violet to cut that one out. And Skimmy, you know, as you did mention, 4 Trinity Forces has completely ruined the dynamic now because it's supposed to be 3. You know, now there's 4. Doesn't work. Just ruined it all.
It's ruined it all. Absolutely. I mean, it's no longer called the Triforce. It's
the Quad Force.
It just doesn't hit, does it? It just has no real good ring to it, unfortunately. So we're going to have to forget about that one because Predative, once again, finds himself surrounded by a couple of members that are very keen to take him down and very easily achieving that outcome. And yeah, look, I mean, it feels rough to say, but it's running out of options for Mammoth to try and get themselves back into this.
Yeah, and I want to mention that I really like Kevy's build, his adaptation to the draft. You know, we're used to seeing Dino go for like Nashes, you know, these full AP builds, Zhonya second, but he recognizes that he is that main engage tool as Voice. Gonna get chunked out a little bit, should be able to walk this one off, but this is just Bliss being able to walk in and just muscle the enemy out because they are so much stronger everywhere on the map. And, you know, back to my point on Kevy, just very nicely recognizes he is the only engage tool his team has, so he pairs that up, you know, with the Proto Belt to give him that extra bit of a oomph to be able to get in the fight. And because he is so strong, you know, doesn't decide to go for the Zhonyas, but just the straight bruiser item in the Riftmaker.
Yeah, give me the Riftmaker, give me the Darksteel, give me that fighting power, right? The true damage, the Omnivamp, it's all going to add up, certainly for sure. Is Renekko! There's the moonfall we've been waiting 19 minutes for. It finds so much value as it locks multiple members in place, but it's difficult to get the killing blow. Finally, Valla opens up their account and takes down Renekko. He's down for 30 seconds, and look, it's not going to be quicker than game one just yet, but this is Bliss already breaking open the base.
Yeah, and what a hard to kill, you know, 1 in 3 Aatrox. Renekko is just doing so much healing there, you know, constantly eking out like a proc from the item, or like getting his you know, Qs off with the ult running means he was just healing so much. And maybe this would have looked very different if he was a bit stronger. I want to see more of this Aatrox, especially with his burst. And Fire Panther finds the 4-man
Oh my god, Player Today contender already. 4-man disgusting counter-strike coming out of the Jax right there. He starts off by taking 180 carry down with him. He gets a second. A quad stun nets him a triple kill.
And I think this is one of the slept-on champions in this meta, Skimmy. You know, I always talk about double A carry being strong. Counter-Strike owns them. You know, it's so hard to do damage to a champion who just dodges all of your kit. Pair that up with the Braum, have the Unbreakable, avoid all that damage coming out of these 80 carries. Also really good, the Concussive Blows, paired with your own double A carries, and the Jax, and the Diana. This is a really nice comp coming out of Bliss to respond to the current meta.
It certainly is. Incredibly one-sided though, Tally. There was no discussion, no real contest in this game. 20 minutes, 22 kills to 3. They spawn from the fountain, but Bliss are looking to farm them and take them down one more time. They smash it. They absolutely smash it, beating their record in game at #1 to close out this series in an incredibly convincing fashion. And I think for them, they can say, you know what, job well done. We can then, you know, turn our attention towards week 6, really look to lock down for what will be our final game and a chance to see what they can do up against Kanga. The playoffs getting nearer and nearer now, Tally, and it's great to see these teams hitting their, you know, their peak form now.
Yeah, and I think that it's Bliss should feel very comfortable with the form they're showing right now. They look so strong, but we're going to have to see, you know, into playoffs when they get to play against those teams who had really good performances in weeks past, will they be able to hold up to that?
That's the question, because right after the break is another massive, massive fight. The battle to try and make it into the top 6. It's Fury up against Direwolves.